Would you like to improve the accuracy of your neural network? Well, this is the right video for you. Because in this video, we are going to learn how to improve the accuracy and some methods associated with it. So in the last tutorial, I covered how do we train our neural network right from the scratch using TensorFlow. Okay, so no machine learning prerequisites in this video were required. So I would suggest you to have a look at that video. It is hardly around 50 minutes where you learn the entire basics of the neural network. Nothing new is brought into the picture. I'll link a card and put the video's link in the description box below. You can definitely check that one. So I would suggest you to please have a look at that video and after that come to this one, because this video is the continuation of that video. So it will be very easy for you to catch up after watching that video. So right before we start, I would like to say that if you really like my content, you can please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any updates, because many more videos are going to come in the near future. This is the model that we had created in the last video where I am just, so let us move line by line so that it will be a revision for you. So I am importing the TensorFlow. After that, I am using the dataset that is already pre-installed with the TensorFlow. And after that, I'm splitting it into training and testing, where training data holds the values of all of the digits that we have, and training labels consists of the particular corresponding number. So I just load the data by using this method. After that, I am dividing it by 255 because those are the pixel values, and when I divide with it, it is very easy for neural network to compute when the values are very small. Later on, I am initializing it with the model where I make a sequential model. So sequential indicates that it moves in a straight line. Okay, it uses a forward propagation neural network. After that, I'm using tf.keras layers flatten. So flatten is responsible for converting all of the values in a one single dimensional vector. So the images are 28 by 28 and it helps us flatten the entire thing. After that, I'm making a dense layer. So dense actually allows me to write a set of parameters for my neural network which are composing of the hidden neurons. So I'm taking 128 hidden neurons, and after that I'll be using activation function, which is ReLU. So ReLU stands for rectified linear unit. So if your value is in the negative, it converts it to 0, and if it is very massive, so it is going to squash it between 0 to 1. After that, I'm using tf.keras.layers.dense. So I'm making one more dense layer where I have 10 neurons. So these 10 neurons are responsible for the 10 outputs that we have, so the digits, but rightly taking from 0 to 9. And the activation that I'm using is softmax, which helps me give the probabilities for the entire vector, and the highest probability wins. So that is the estimated prediction that we have. After that, I'm compiling my model for the backward propagation. So where loss is equal to, I am using the sparse categorical cross entropy, and optimizer is stochastic gradient descent. So I have covered these terms in the last video itself. If you have any doubts with that, you can just check that video. And after that, I'm saying matrix is equal to accuracy. So accuracy gives me the evaluation parameters. Okay, so accuracy is going to give me the parameters for our model to evaluate. After that, I'll be just fitting my model where I'm feeding it my training data and training labels. So that is my X train and Y train, and epochs is equal to 5. So epoch is basically an entire process of the forward propagation and backward propagation. So I'm repeating that 5 times, and the accuracy that we get is around 93%. So these were the things that we have covered in the last video, but in this tutorial, I want you to give you some techniques with which you can try to improve the accuracy of this neural network. Let's get started. What might be the ways to do that? So there are some ways, some of them are quite unconventional, but let us stick to the basic ones in the beginning. So what if I increase the number of layers? Okay, so now let us try to increase one number of layer and try to just see the changes. So here, after 128 activation neurons, I'll try to make one more layer. So this one I want to make of 64 neurons. Okay, so 64. So after 128, I am actually trying to diminish my network. And activation, again, I'm going to give it ReLU. So that is my rectified linear unit. So let us now try to see that adding just one single layer is going to yield us any significant result. So right before we start, I always try to check my runtime, and I try to keep it to the GPU. So it is already on GPU. So I'll just save. And now I can either type Control F9 or I'll just say run all. So run all is actually going to run all of your cells at once. So the training process has started. Since the training is going on, I would like to say that if you haven't gone through the last video and if you know some basics of the neural network and if you want this code, you can go to the source code and you can check the first folder. Okay, so I am arranging all of these tutorials folder wise, so you can check the first tutorial. So it is build your first neural network, so you can click on that folder and you will have the code. Okay, you can download, or you can basically git clone that Jupyter notebook, or you can try to run it on the Google Colab like I am doing. Okay, so that is one of the better options. Okay, so training has finished, and since last time it was around 93%, it has grew to 94%. Okay, so that is quite a significant change. Now let us try to add one more layer. This time I'll try to add a layer of 32 neurons, and activation is equal to ReLU. And let us try to retrain it. Okay, so question might arise in your mind, well, how many layers am I supposed to add? Okay, so this is completely user specific, but a sweet spot that I would suggest you is around 3 to 5 layers. Okay, not more than that, because that might be detrimental towards your model, because your model actually overfits on the data. So overfitting and underfitting, we will come to that in quite later videos. Okay, not at the moment, because here we are actually trying to build the base of how you structure your neural network. So that is my goal. After that, after like some time, we will just look at the things. Okay, so we are going to cover as many aspects as we can of the neural network, so that that is the reason this is playlist called deep learning for rookie developers. I made a mistake. I forgot layers over here. So training has finished, and in order to you know save our time, actually skip the video. So this time it gives us 95.71. So does that mean that I have to keep adding on layers? Okay, so that is not the case. Okay, that is not, I would say, quite a conventional method. So now the next step is what we are going to do. So have you given it a thought that what other things you might do? Okay, so there are many things. Okay, when we come to the overfitting, there are also some methods in order to balance that neural network. But in this situation, we want to increase our accuracy like hardly more 2 or 3%. Okay, not more than that. Some people might say, okay, I have got 100% accuracy, but that is wrong. Okay, that indicates that their model is overfitting and it is in the wrong position. So that is not the case you want. We want a sweet spot around 97 to 98%. So that is, I would say, quite a great accuracy. Okay, not even 99, in some cases it is fine, but I like to, like, in my opinion, I like to keep it around 97 to 98. So now let us look how we can do that. So since we have already added 3 layers, the only thing that we can change again is the number of epochs. So number of epochs also do matter, because once you are forward propagating and backward propagating, the procedure needs some more time to learn. Okay, you cannot try to grasp a lot of information in a short span of time. And now let us run this. So I fast forwarded the video, and as you can see, the accuracy that we're getting is 97.33%. 97 is a very good number. So am I supposed to increase more epochs? So let us now give it a shot. Okay, now let us try to make our epochs 15, and let's see if we get any significant form of changes. And we have it. In the 15 epochs, we have got 98.57% accuracy. So that is quite a great accuracy, I would say, and I won't extend it more further. Okay, according to me, like in my opinion, if this is one of the best accuracies achieved, if you want to make significant changes, you can definitely give it a shot. Okay, that is up to you. So now I would like to cover some other metrics in order to. So now today I'll try to visualize this thing with a form of graph. Okay, so we can see the training and loss, how they went with each other. Definitely that doesn't give us a great result, because this quite matters when we come to the validation aspect of it, which will be in quite later videos. Okay, not in this one. So now let us just make a simple graph that will give us the changes in the training and the loss. So here I'll have to change it with a name. So I'll just say my model. So that is the name I'm giving, okay, to model.fit. And now I'll first of all import the matplotlib, which is a tool used for the visualization. After that, the next step is, so I want the parameters. So how am I actually going to do it? So in order to do that, there are two things associated. So as you can see, the matrix section gives me my loss and accuracy. Okay, so these are the two parameters that are there, and we want to form a graph of it. So the method in which we can do it, we are going to try to pull it from our model using the history. Okay, so I'll say accuracy, which is the name of the variable I'm making, and here I'll say my model dot history, and here I'll mention accuracy. Next step is same to do for the loss, and here I'll say loss my model history loss. All right, and now we want to track that progress with respect to the number of epochs that we have. So I'll just make a variable name epochs, where I'll say in the range of length of, okay, so I'm going to try to map the length along with the accuracy. So for the number of variables it moves, it is going to give us the accuracy. Now next step is plotting it. Okay, so I'll just say plt dot plot, and inside that let's say number of epochs. So with respect to epochs it is going to move. Okay, so x is my epochs, and y is going to be my accuracy, let's say. So accuracy. All right, and after that here I'll say plt dot plot and epochs, and I'll say loss, and after that I'll just say plt dot show. So that is the this is about matplotlib. Okay, so oops, I failed to run this one. Okay, so I'll have to first run this because I made a change over here. So instead what I'll do is, I usually do this, so I'll say factory reset time. So it clears all the variables for me, because sometimes it happens that if you have a lot of code, the cells are going to engage with each other, and your code will be pretty much screwed. So I'll now say run all. Okay, so this is the graph that is generated. So the blue line that you can see is the accuracy. So it increased over a span of time, and loss significantly decreased. Okay, so this is one form of like the elbow shift that happens. Okay, so it looks like an human elbow. So this is the thing. So whenever I say model.summary, I get an insight of each and every neural network and the way these activation neurons were arranged. And after that, I also get the parameters that are given with each of the section. Okay, so at last, it takes like from 330 parameters, and it is going to yield us the correct probability. Similarly, I can say model.evaluate, where I have to feed my testing data and testing labels. So this is going to yield me my accuracy and loss for the test data. Okay, so testing data is kind of data that my neural network has never been able to spot, and here it is giving me around 97.32%, which is very very good. Okay, which is very close to the accuracy that we have got over here, which is 98.27. So it is very much good, I would say. Still, some practitioners who are very very professional might say that this still is the overfitting model. Okay, so I am talking quite much more about the overfitting and underfitting. So let me just give you a glimpse of what it is really. So overfitting indicates that my model is training more good with the training data, but not performing well with the testing data. And underfitting is where my model is not training appropriately with the training data, but it is training with my testing data very well. So these are the two principles. So it is better that the data scientist, a job of a data scientist or a deep learning engineer, is to balance these things. Okay, is to keep it in an equal plane. So for our model as a beginner, this is a very great scenario, I would say, where there is hardly 1% of deviation. Okay, not much. Like obviously if the testing accuracy would have been around 50, I would have got a little bit shocked. The one more thing that I would like to teach you in this video is the image prediction. Okay, so the prediction of the image that I was supposed to cover in my last video itself. Okay, so but there I committed a small mistake, and I also ran it because the video was already around 50 minutes long and I wanted to cut the time. Okay, so now today we will assess this one line by line. Okay, so let us now try our code segments in order to classify an actual image. So you have to give it an image. So first of all, I'll try to explain you the code. So I'll say from TensorFlow dot oops TensorFlow dot keras dot. So next thing is pre-processing. Import image. Okay, so this image is going to help you to tackle the scenarios that you have with the real world images, because you want to take the data from the outside world. Okay, so you can take any image that you have and we are going to feed it to the model. Now next thing is I'll make a variable over here which says input image. So here I'll say image, that is the name of the library that I'm using, okay, like a sub library from it. So image, and I'll say load image. Okay, so these are the things that you are probably going to come across. Okay, so here I'll say first of all input image, then I'll say load image, and here I am going to feed the path of my image, and after that here are some suggestions. So I'll say color mode is equal to grayscale. Okay, because we have only one channel, our MNIST images are grayscale. If your image, actually the color mode by default is RGB, but we want the grayscale. And after that I'll say input size, this is going to be 28 by 28. Now next step is to take this image, a loaded image, and we have to convert it into an array. Okay, so that array conversion is also very easy. So let's say numerical values of image, let's say. Okay, so we actually like to write very clean code so that any beginner can even also understand, because if you use some conventions it might happen that it becomes quite dirty. All right, so now I'll say image dot and image to array. I think that's the code, image to array, and here I am going to fill it input image. I think these naming conventions are something different. We will check it. Okay, when we run our code, if we have any issues, I'll try to solve them. So now I have the numerical values of the image, but now I will have to expand its dimensions. Now you may ask, why do I have to expand the dimensions when I already have 28 by 28 images? If you remember in the first tutorial when I said like training data dot shape and testing data dot shape, I got 60,000 first number. After that I got 28 and 28. So what was that? So that 60,000 number indicates the number of the images that it has. Okay, so in order to do that, we will also have to feed it the dimension extra. So whenever one image we are going to feed it as an input, we will have to say that one image has been added. So we have to specify that number, but that number can be very huge. Okay, so that is an arbitrary number. So how do we deal with it? I'll show you how. So here I'll say, so I want to expand the dimensions. Okay, so expand dimension. After that, here I'll say, so now I will have to reshape it. Okay, so I'll say numerical values of the image dot reshape, and in the reshape I am going to say -1 28 by 28. Now you may ask why I said -1. -1 basically indicates I don't know the size. So that -1 actually means that you can feed it any number of images and it is going to tackle them. Obviously it is never going to be -1, but you can feed it 1, 2, 3, 10 or 100. Okay, and it is going to deal with it because it doesn't know it is -1. Okay, so I don't know, the user doesn't know that what amount of images it is going to feed. So -1 comes to feed. Now the next step is this expanded dimension. We have to feed it to my prediction mechanism. So here I'll say predicted value, which is equal to model.predict, and then I'll say expand dimension, which is the name of my variable. So the output is going to come, like I said, in the terms of the probabilities, and we will have to use the argmax. So first of all, I'll import NumPy. And now here I'll say, let's say argmax predictions, which are very much, sure. And after here I'll say argmax. Okay, argmax, and I'll here feed it predicted value. And now I will print argmax. Okay, so we will get the output. All right, and we have it. So this is the code. Okay, so if you are someone who is using it with the help of their PC, it is going to be easy. But for Google Colab, there is a small change, I would say. Okay, there is a small change which you will have to make in the code, because you are taking an image from your computer into a browser. Okay, so we have to deal with that. So how do we do it? Let us see that. So here I'll say from google.colab import files. Okay, so that is a feature that you get with the Google Colab, where you can upload the files. And now I will have to say, so I'll actually make a variable known as uploaded image, which is equal to let's say files.upload. So that is a function provided you by the Google. And now I will have to make a for loop. So here I will say, let's say path of the image. So path in uploaded image, because you have to pull it from where it has been saved on your Google Colab. All right, and I'll say keys. Okay, and I'll now put this entire code into that. That's it. All right, so here let's say control V. Oops, I'll have to arrange it, and we have it. Okay, so this is the code to predict the image. Now let us see if it works, okay, in the first place, because if it is not working, I'll have to make some changes. I think something might have went wrong. Let us just check it. Okay, let us not assume. I think it is IMG or image. I think it is IMG. I forgot that one. Okay, so let us just see. So now I'll say run it, and here it will say choose file. So in the last video, what I did was I was actually trying to predict the images that had white background and black text. Okay, so that was not going to happen, because we had trained our model with all of the background as black and white text. Okay, so that was the issue with it. Okay, I later on checked on. So here I'll just try to first select 0, and let us see if it predicts it. And we have a error. Okay, so load image color mode. Oh, it is color mode. Okay, sorry. I said color model. Choose files, and I'll select 0. Load image got an unexpected. Okay, it is not input size. I think it is target size. Let us try it. Target size. I think that is the right way. I'll say choose files, open, and we have it. Okay, so it is actually saying 0. So now let us try to test another one, and I'll say choose files. I'll select 3, and we have it. It says 3. All right, and now let us try to check 7. Let us see. It says 7. We have it. Okay, so our model is actually trying to predict the images that were not even in our testing set. Okay, so if you can compile this code into a nice API with the help of Flask or Django and host it somewhere on the cloud, then you can later on pull it and make a mobile app, and you can actually make a real mobile app. So let us say there is a canvas on your mobile app or your website. You can just draw the image, and then you can have the digit classification. Okay, so this is a great project for the beginners, I would say. Okay, I'll try to do it now with the 3 images simultaneously. All right, let us check it, and we have it. So first image that was uploaded was 7, it says 7. Second was 3, it says 3, and then 0, it says 0. Okay, so we have it. And a small change I would like to suggest you. So if you don't want this reshape, you can actually use something known as, So let me comment out. Okay, so I'll say expand dimension, that is the name of the variable that I already have. Okay, so expand dimension, and here I'll say np, so I am using actually numpy. Okay, so and then I'll say expand dims. So that is also one of the ways with which you can do it. And here I'll feed it my image. Okay, so I'll say numerical values of the image, and then you have to say axis is equal to 0. Okay, so this axis is actually responsible in order to hold your index element and not jumble up the things. Okay, now let us check all three images. Let's say open, and we have it. So this is a basic form in which you can improve a neural network, and apart from that, you today learned a prediction mechanism that was not just numerical. Okay, so you can take an image from the real world and you can feed it as an input to the image. What else you want? Okay, so this was it about the today's tutorial. But in the next tutorial, we are going to take these things up a notch. So in that, we are going to use something known as convolutional neural network. So that is specifically designed for the images. So let's say, the MNIST has the numerical values as its data set of the images, but let us assume that there are real world images. You don't have the numerical data. In that scenario, what you are going to do? Okay, so that is a really great stuff that you can learn, because CNN constitutes a lot of deep learning research. Okay, so everything that is associated with the image processing, image segmentation, or things like that, CNN is going to come into picture. CNN is the first thing that you are going to learn. CNN stands for convolutional neural networks. So you don't really want to miss that video. So in order to stick up with the updates that I'm posting on my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, so if you subscribe to my channel, definitely, and click on the bell icon, you are not going to miss out on any of my updates. Okay, so whenever I post anything, you are going to get it as a notification very easily. So this is it for the today's video. Okay, so one thing before closing, if you want to use this code, play with it. Okay, you can have it, the source. So the source to the GitHub is in the down in the description box. Okay, so you can just click on the description box, click on the source code, and you can have it. Okay, so you can try to run this on your own. I will also post the testing images along with it, so you will have a folder called as testing images. So I think you might have learned something or the other from this tutorial. Okay, so thank you for watching. Goodbye.